All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome to today's webinar, Accelerating Access to Critical Customer Data with Simple Salesforce Migration. My name is Scott Cloutier. I am the Events and Program Specialist here at Scribe Software, and we're definitely excited to have you on the line today. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. Our phone lines are muted. The presentation should last approximately 30 to 40 minutes. If you have questions, please go ahead and ask them at any point in time during the webinar. You can go ahead and submit them using the questions feature of GoToMeeting. We will address all of the questions at the end of the presentation. And if you have other questions and you'd like to tweet at us or you'd just like to start a conversation at Twitter, you can see up in the right-hand corner, you can tweet at ScribeSoft using the hashtag #SFMigration. We'd certainly love to start some conversations on Twitter. We will have a recorded version of the webinar available after it's over. And we will also have a short survey that is going out right after you close out the webinar, so we'd love for you to take that as well. And we will be uploading the deck onto SlideShare for everyone to download. And I'd love to introduce our two speakers on the call today. We're joined by Jan Maas, who is our Salesforce.com channel manager in EMEA, our Scribe Netherlands office, and Pierre Hulsebus, who is our senior sales engineer, and he'll be giving you your technical demonstration today. Quick overview of the agenda. So we're just going to talk briefly about Scribe. We'll talk then a little bit about customer experiences, particularly around migration experiences. Then we'll go through some challenges that we see typically with customers that are doing migration to Salesforce. We'll then go through the Scribe Online architecture and the technical demonstration. We'll then just do a quick recap of what the value of using Scribe is for migration, and then we'll talk about next steps. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Jan.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. Thank you for the welcome, and welcome, of course, to all attendees in this webinar. To start things off, I would like to tell a little bit about Scribe as a company. Of course, Scribe is an established global provider of solutions that easily bring customer data anywhere it's needed, whether your systems are cloud-based, on-premise, or you know, a mix of both. And being the leader in major customer application markets like Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce, as well as having an extensive network of ISV partners, basically allows Scribe Solutions to help over 12,000 of customers and 1,200 partners, you know, to use customer data to increase revenue and provide superior service and create business value faster. Our solutions include Scribe Online, which is a cloud-based integration platform, and we have Scribe Insight, which delivers enterprise-ready software-based integration for both CRM and ERP systems. Of course, our solutions are both easy to use and are backed by extensive support, and we have several kind of training options available. Today, our focus will be on Scribe Online, on the Scribe Online platform, which offers, in essence, replication and integration services, but of course can be, you know, beneficial for migration projects as well. To say a little bit about customer experiences, you know, migration of data. Sorry, go to the next slide. Yeah. Migration of data from an existing system is often, you know, one of the first challenges that a company is confronted with when embarking on a new CRM system. So as we'll touch on in the upcoming slides, it can have a dramatic effect on the initial adoption of the success of your CRM investment. So if we look at the customer review here, Scribe Online makes you know, the transition at this customer quite easy. The customer, and this customer in specific, was actually faced with migrating from Dynamics CRM to Salesforce.com, and needed to get, for example, critical account information and contact information, but also activity data into the new system quickly. And he managed to do so perfectly with Scribe Online. Another customer experience I'd like to share with you is actually a software company who needed to both migrate initial customer data from an SQL database and a legacy homegrown application into Salesforce, as well as to integrate with their ERP system and QuickBooks application. So in this last case, they used the same Scribe Online platform for actually two purposes, right? So for the initial migration from the old CRM to the new, as well as integrating the new CRM with several kind of other systems that the customer was using. Okay. I need to go one back. Yeah. Challenges. Let's take a look at the challenges. Well, we basically see four major challenges that customers face when deploying a new CRM system, right? So the first is user adoption, and it definitely is a challenge, but it's actually an ongoing challenge, right? So of course you want your users to use the CRM system, and one of the surest ways to affect, positive adoption of the CRM and the new CRM is to give your users the data they need from the other systems. And according to a principal analyst at Forrester, it is so that out of all the CRM project problems that are reported, the most significant threat is actually slow user adoption. So we'll go a little into that. The second one is user needs. So basically that means what data do your users require from other systems? What customer master data, what activity history, for example, order history or notes and attachments. So what do your users actually need, and how do we get a clear view on that? The third one is data staging, and this is where we actually dig into the more technical stuff, the technical details that we should consider when migrating data. And Pierre is going to touch on these slides and talk about, for example, how to handle multiple data sources, but also key cross-references, data ownership, and many more of the technical stuff. And then the fourth one is data issues. Again, Pierre will touch on these things to consider, when managing, for example, parent-child relationships or activity migrations and, for example, attachments. But first, we will go into user adoption. Let me see if it works. Yeah, it works fine. Like I mentioned earlier, user adoption is quite a challenge, right? So, and there are many different takes on CRM user adoption out there today. And well, basically they're all valid. They go from including users in the design and deployment of the system, of the new CRM system, but also align CRM processes with the processes of the sales team, building trust with your sales team, right, and convincing your salespeople that the new CRM system is more than just Big Brother that's watching you, following your every step. And of course, the ultimate goal is to get the user buy-in, right? But what we found is that data and the availability of it is actually at the crux of the user adoption and usage issues that actually all companies face. So what you basically want to do is give users their own slice of data to start with in the new CRM system, and then we're not just talking about bringing over account and contact data, but you want to bring over the data, they need to do their actual jobs on a daily basis, you know, from the other systems they interact with. You know, and what you want is you know, your CRM to provide a single and total view of the customer. So you know, and being a Salesforce person myself and a Salesforce user myself, you know, I need data on a regular basis from multiple systems within my organization. So, for example, the ERP systems that we use, which is Great Plains on our end, but also marketing automation systems and support systems, and you know, and bringing all that data over from those systems to the CRM system can provide you a real well, like solid basis for CRM adoption and CRM usage by the actual users within your organization. Let me think. Yeah, well, another consideration is to ensure that, you know, that data quality actually exists in the new CRM. So quite important is cleaning up the data and deduplicating the data, you know, in that process. And obviously loading the right data for the right, you know, groups of persons. And that would basically lead me to the next slide. And that's more around, you know, the user needs. And one way of looking at the data needs of the user that you have within your organization is through sort of like a user persona approach, right? So in this approach, you group your users into, well, certain types to determine what data they would need out of which systems, you know, to enable them to effectively do their job, basically. So, for example, if we look at marketing, for example, Mary the marketeer, all she wants is, you know, to have more qualified leads and metrics about campaigns to be available, right? And Mary would probably want the contact lists that she purchased in the past to be available, and some business intelligence. While if you look at the salespersons within your organization, well, all they want is to sell more, and they want to sell faster, right? So how can you help him in the best way? You know, you could provide, you know, for example, customer data or customer master data, excuse me, and purchase history from the ERP system, or, you know, a credit status of certain customers, or information around his prospects, you know, and what campaigns they responded to, for example. So in that way, you can use or you can build some you know, user persona. And if you look at for example, you know, a finance person, all he wants to have is, you know, a shorter quote to cash, let's say, and improved efficiency. So this is a way that you can, you know, divide the requirements that your users could have by you know, giving them a user persona. And in addition to those personas, you probably want to look at, you know, the needs of end users from their perspective, let's say. So what I basically mean with that is, you know, your record and data ownership needs to be tied to the right person, along with you know, any related activity history or tasks or opportunity, for example. And of course, you want to ensure that, you know, the activity and task dates are correct as well, you know, to maintain the quality of data within the system. You know, imagine if all activities were loaded with today's date, right? You would lose the history of the interaction with that certain customer. And you know, Pierre is going to touch on these kind of topics as well in the upcoming slides, in the upcoming 2 slides actually. And this is, you know, the point where I hand it off to Pierre, because Pierre, he has lots of experience in migrating data. So, Pierre, would you be so kind to take us through some considerations?
Sure. From a methodology standpoint, the way that our folks typically will use the tool like Scribe, whereas we're moving the data out from our source systems into our target application here, Salesforce, all the things that you just mentioned are so important to be able to understand the level of data quality required, what's required by each persona or each user group inside of the system, and then also from an individual user, what I, as a user of the system, need to experience. And so this is that's kind of the what we need to do. This is a couple pieces of information on some of the best practices for how we accomplish that. So the first thing we like to talk about is staging that data up. And so this is moving that data from those external sources into Salesforce. And so there's a couple different strategies. So that source data can come from lots of different sources. Some of it can be text files that can be exported from our target application or from our source applications. They might be lists, they might be Excel spreadsheets, those types of things. We also may be moving data from other Salesforce instances. So a common thing that we see where people are doing migration is actually migrating the data off of another Salesforce instance, maybe a different department, or a company goes through an acquisition, and then they need to merge the two Salesforce instances. And Scribe is able to do that. We're able to connect to multiple Salesforce instances at the same time, actually, and we call that federation, of kind of federate the data into one system. The other time, we're also working with other CRM systems, maybe like our example at the beginning that RJ had talked about was someone coming off a dynamic CRM into Salesforce, and that's certainly a thing. So staging that data up, what's important about that is we want to be able to get as much of that information available to us, not just the addresses and names, but also some of that important information like who are the record owners, when is that date created, so when we get into looking at the data from the user's perspective, it's appropriate and accurate. One of the things that we found to be really helpful is building out a system internally, whether that's in Salesforce or as part of the staging database area, is to be able to establish some sort of cross-reference table. And what we mean by that is having some sort of record identity from our external systems, and then when Salesforce generates a new record during the migration, we want to be able to take that record ID and write it back into our kind of staging area. So then we would be able to handle other migrations over time or doing updates to those records over time. One of the things that a lot of folks don't quite realize, they initially think that migration is a one-time thing, and it's going to happen on one day, and it's going to be done tomorrow or over the weekend or something on this order. And that definitely happens, but I would say, in my experience, about half of these migrations end up actually being a short-term integration as an organization moves off of one system and moves over to another system. So that process usually happens over weeks, actually, as the different departments move over. And so you got to keep the data in sync, and that's why, for a little bit, and that's why this is so important of having this cross-reference information. Now, you need to pick your staging platform. There's a couple different ways to get to that. We like to use a database method to use build out a SQL table structure and put the data in there and kind of hold it there before we migrate it over. But you can also have CSV files or something on that order, but something that Scribe can connect to that allows us the ability to not only read the data out, but write back to that with successes and failures and work with. So now, different users have different needs, of course, as RJ had mentioned earlier, and so it's important that when we do, to this next little block here, talking about attachments and documents, it's really important that we understand where those are located and understand also not only here's the documents and here's the library of those documents, but also potentially, like if we're bringing history and service calls and things on this order, we want to review all of that and be able to make sure that we're bringing that data over accurately. Some of it we might not need to bring in, honestly, so it depends on those different users, and they may say, I might have access to all the historical data, but they may say, oh, we only want to bring back sales orders from the last year, and I don't need sales orders from a long, long time ago. And of course, also in the stage, it's really important that we have some sort of ability to identify who the record owner should be and where when the data was created. So if I'm migrating over, let's say, phone call data or email history, I want to know who completed those phone calls and also when they were completed. So when we look at the data as it's migrated from the perspective of a contact record or an account record or lead, those phone calls and emails look like they happened, 5 years ago, or as they actually did occur. So the source data in our stage area needs to, be able to have all that information in it. Can we go to the next slide? So as we're talking here in our staging area, we want to be able to maintain the data in a parent-child relationship, or be able to at least look back at let's say a child object and know, oh, this address record, it belongs to this contact record, or these billing belong to this particular account. And so that's why that cross-reference becomes very important. So this is one thing that is actually pretty complicated or moderately complex about data migration is, we don't just insert the contact table and then insert the account table and think it's all going to work together. We need to make sure that the contacts are parented to the appropriate accounts and the addresses are appropriated to the appropriate contacts. And so defining that and understanding that in your organization is really important. And it's a big challenge, too, for us. Activity migration, as mentioned, we not only need to understand who the owner of those pending records are, or those activity records are, and make sure that the dates are there, we also need to know the status of those, whether they're completed or not completed. So in a CRM system, we have the sense that here's a phone call, is it been completed or not completed? So an end user logs into the system, they have a view typically that says, here's all my pending phone calls, here's my pending opportunities. So there, from a workflow standpoint, that's their kind of homepage, so to speak, in most CRM systems. And so when we bring that data over, we need to make sure that we're not just bringing, the details, but also the status of that information, so the users make an easy, migration themselves as users into the system. And then also, finally, really data attachments become a challenge. One of the things is we have, size issues, and we need to be able to have access. Scribe needs to be able to read those files, and in some of our training, we go into exactly how this is how it works. But effectively, Scribe needs to be able to, from where it is installed, needs to see those documents. Now, one of the things a lot of folks do during a data migration is also reconsider this data model themselves, actually. And so moving over to Salesforce, because there's a little bit of a quota around the amount of data that you can hold, attachments taking up the majority of that space in most organizations. A lot of folks will use a tool like Scribe to take those attachments out of Salesforce, actually, and go into something like a SharePoint or some other data store system that's separate from Salesforce, and there's methodologies that Scribe has for that. So one other slide. So this is we're going to get right into the demo here. So let's we wanted to give you a quickie on the architecture, just so you kind of understand what from a landscape where we're looking at. So Scribe we're going to log in from a web browser. And that's what's up there on the upper left-hand corner there, the online Scribe. That's kind of where we start with this, and that connects into the Scribe Online Cloud. Our cloud app is actually cloud-based, and so it's up there. You log into it with the username and password. And from there, on the left-hand side, on the bottom, really represents our local data. So we have what's referred to as agents, and those get installed locally. In this case, they're installed locally, and it connects into that local database. And that's where we're getting the local data off of that local system. Now, that local agent is what does the communication to the cloud, to Salesforce, and so that is how the data gets out to Salesforce. So, all right, well, let's just get right into it here. If you guys can send me over the, I will show my screen. Just want to validate that you guys can see what can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, excellent. Excellent. So we're starting out in Salesforce, and I'm just looking at my accounts and whatnot that I have here. So we don't have any data in here yet, just so you guys can get a sense for how this data moves into the system. And in my environment here, my source is a SQL database. So this is my source database. I put it in SQL. I have this database called Big Data, and in this database, I just have a random set of sample users or sample contacts. And so these are folks, and I'm just using a simple SQL query out of this. And this is kind of how you would do testing as you would bring this stuff through. So we're just going to use a native SQL query into this database, and that's what's going to get us our information for our source. So in here, I just literally have the names and I have the company names all in one table. And of course, as we mentioned, one of the challenges is a hierarchical view. Salesforce really wants to have an account record and a company record or an account record, and so I'm going to take this here and we'll split it out into two different records. So let's look at this the Scribe online platform. So as we mentioned, we're here in a web browser, and I've logged into Scribe Online. And as we also mentioned earlier, we have this little agent. It gets installed locally on my local laptop here. So this is just running off my laptop in my office here. And inside of Scribe, you connect into your we call connectors. So when we connect into Salesforce, I'm just going to double click here, and that's going to get me into the dialog box for Salesforce. So one of the things that Scribe does, and we're known for, is our connectors. And so we have connectors that are purpose written. This is the connector for Salesforce, so it's pretty simple actually to connect to. You just put the URL, and got my username and my password. So it can't be any simpler than that. Just the URL, username, and password, and that allows me to connect into this system. So if you have sandbox environments or other different systems, you would just set up different connections for different ones there. So as we mentioned, I'm connecting into my SQL database. That's my source database here. So I'm just same thing. I've got a SQL connection, and I've just defined where that is here. And one other thing I would mention, if we were doing something like text files as our source, just so we're not doing that today, but I did want to mention that because I know a lot of folks do that. In the text files, there's a folder that runs locally on my system that I have that I would put those CSV files or text files in. You can also point out to things like Dropbox or something like that for those files. Those can be located outside of your system too, and effectively we connect into these different files and are able to define the format and see those just like basically like a database. So once you have those connected into the system, your connections, then we're able to build out our solutions. So I'm going to just drill into the solution here that we built, and we build out what are referred to as maps. So maps are the actual connections and the consuming those connections and actually doing the actual data migration or manipulation of the data if needed. So just double click on this. This will bring it up on the screen here. So the Scribe interface for this is a very graphical interface. We use these are called control blocks. We're always going to start our data migration or integration with a query. So that is the thing that begins the whole process, and I dropped my native query block right onto this to start it with. I'm going to just double click on here. This will open up my query. So as we were saying, we can we're just paste our query right into here. Well, that's not the right query. Let's get the right query here. That's this query right here. Let's bring that query right into there and hit that in there and hit test, and then just test the query to make sure it can, read the data. And it successfully retrieves the data in the background. So it's validating that my query is good for that. So if you have joins or things on that order, you're able to do that. So from here, what I'm able to do is then we have this block here for each result. We have that built. So that's the only block that will fit right underneath this native query. I can't fit any of these other blocks. They won't fit in there. Just this for each result one will fit. And then, so for each result I get, so each line basically in my query, I'm going to create an account and I'm going to create a contact. And those were dropped and dragged, or dragged and dropped from over here. So these will fit right in there. As you can see, they nest right under there. So this user interface was built really to make it as simple as possible, so I could get all the right kind of steps in there and get my syntax correct. You won't really ever have to open anything like a Visual Studio or to be a developer to do this. Is very simple. So here in my my creation block, I've chosen the entity for Salesforce. So this is connecting out to Salesforce, and then here's all the objects that are in Salesforce. Scribe then, through that connection, reads all the objects, and there we go. And so we're just choosing account in this one, and then now we're just mapping fields. So over on the left-hand side, I'm seeing all the fields that are part of my query, and over on the right-hand side are all the fields, all the standard fields and custom fields that are part of Salesforce. And to map an address, for example, let me just clear this one here. I would just highlight the field that I want to bring over, which is this address field, drag it across and drop it on the field that I want. That's as hard as this gets. So this is how we do our field level mappings inside of the system. So I've mapped like the company name in these different fields, and so I've got all my address information in there for the account record. So that's the account record, and of course then the next thing that I wanted to do after creating an account is that primary contact, or the contact that works at this account. So I've chosen the contact record, and at the field level I have all of these. I've done the same thing. I've got my native query, my first and last name, and we've mapped those over there. Now, one thing that's important is this field right here, this account ID, and this is what we were talking about, the hierarchical data. So this is the field that refers back to the account. And so I've got one row in my source data that says, Pierre Hulsebus works at Scribesoft. We've created the Scribe Software company, and now we're creating the contact for that company. And so the account ID is up here in this little piece. So if I click on this, I can see this is all the results for all the fields that got moved in, and of course that ID got created. So this is now a variable for me, and I can use that in this account create ID. So this is it, and this is how it goes, and this will just keep looping through until it finishes up all the data that we have asked it to do. So as soon as I hit OK, what we'll see is I can schedule this to run on certain times. So if I want to say, hey, run it on the weekend, or run it at a certain time of the day every night, you have all of the options for doing that. Scribe can run in a reoccurring way every minute, even if I wanted to. And this is important because, like we were saying, we're able, a lot of times our data migration jobs are really short-term integrations. People are going to be on the other system for a little bit, and I need to keep my new Salesforce system up to date with my old system for a little while. So I might need to kind of keep running this for a little bit. So So this is where set it to run on demand, and that's the kind of default behavior, and that just allows me to run it here just when I click the go button, basically. So I'm just going to hit save here for the whole thing. And as we were talking earlier, we can see it says preparing. So again, I'm in a web browser, and this is communicating, the cloud is communicating down to the local agent, and so it's giving those instructions down to the agent. And so now it's ready to go. It says on demand, and my run now button is green, so I can just hit run now, and it'll send that execute command down to the Salesforce, or down to my agent, and the agent will, complete this as it goes. So as it starts up, we will see it starting, and then once it completes, we'll see that data show up over in Salesforce. So it'll take a minute or so for it to fire up. So we can see it's in progress here. So if I hit refresh, let's see if we got probably got a couple records in there already. Yeah, there we go. And so here's my new records that just got created. If I go to open one of them up, Ames Automotive, we'll see a contact record that also got created here. So this is our contact record at this account record. So this is kind of how this whole thing works. And from a result standpoint, we'll see that it's in progress. It'll take a minute for it. We told it to do 100 or so. So that is how Scribe Online works. And let's go. So I'm going to stop showing my screen and go back. Let's go back to the PowerPoint and kind of wrap this up.
All right, great. And Robert, you should have control of the slide deck as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Scott. Yeah, I just wanted to take a look and to talk about a little bit about the business value. Basically, when it comes to CRM implementations, most experts believe that motivation of the users is a better method than the do it or else approach, right? So that basically means that doing whatever it takes to get the users to really want to use the CRM system. And actually, one of the easiest ways to do this is to make your CRM application a rich and a rich information delivery mechanism, actually. And if you do, you will see that the users will use it, and they will sell more, and they will serve us more. And by making Salesforce your central hub of customer data, your users will gladly reciprocate by adopting the technology and providing you with the critical business intelligence that you are seeking about your customers and about your prospects and leads. Now, Scribe Online was purpose-built, right, for aggregating customer data into CRM from other applications and other data sources. And as we showed you today, it's quite fast and quick to build out solutions, thus reducing your time to business value, and ultimately reducing your total cost of ownership of your CRM system. And providing a complete view of the customer really enables your teams to react more quickly and sell more and service customers better, right? Now we're going to one of the last slides. We're getting close to the end of this webinar, actually. But to quickly summarize what we've talked about today around data migration into Salesforce is, be smart and use Scribe for Salesforce migration and integration. Simply because we are fast, right, and we are easy to use. You can actually build out your data migrations quickly, and you'll have the maps in place, allowing you to build once and actually deploy to many. And that all without coding and within your current infrastructure. And as Pierre showed you today, it's all designed with a very simple and very intuitive user interface. Built for ease of use, and you can use the same platform to connect all of your data sources, and you can do exactly that in the most flexible way. You can change or add applications that need to be integrated as your needs grow and change. And we have quite a predictable pricing model. Let's say, it's a predictable monthly cost with no hidden fees for users or connections or something like that. And we're in the market for 19 years, and it's all that we do. I mean, data integration is all that we do, and so we have a proven success there. And it's it's not for nothing that we have over 12,000 customers and more than 1,200 partners worldwide using our solutions. So that was basically it for me. So I think we can go to the questions now.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. So we'll go ahead and start answering some questions. Again, if you have questions, please type them into the GoToMeeting questions feature, and we'll certainly ask those. So it looks like we do have a couple questions here. The first one, it looks like more of a technical question, maybe for Pierre. Pierre, do we provide a library of sample generic queries?
Sample generic queries for so the query would be based on the staged data itself. So Scribe doesn't have any, because that's going to vary from one deployment to the next. So we don't have a set of generic queries.
Yeah, and Pierre, did you want to talk about the pre-built mappings that we have, pre-built solution packs or anything like that?
So, Scribe does have pre-built solution packs then that we have for various integrations that are out there for most all of the connectors that we have. So for Salesforce, for example, we have excuse me, target that you can get from those kind of target methodologies, for example, for how to create, let's say, a sales order, some of the more complex relationships. Scribe definitely has examples of those in our library.
Great, and I think, and a good, another question from the same person, do we migrate into any CRM systems or just into Salesforce? Just they're looking at other abilities that we have.
Sure. So Scribe has two CRM. We have Microsoft Dynamics CRM and Salesforce.com CRM connectors. Scribe also has a couple other methods that you're able to use for building connections to other systems. So other applications that have API types of connections that we don't have adapters for, or connectors that Scribe has written. You as a user have access to a connector development kit, and you certainly can build connections to applications that have, let's say, web service types of connections. So if somebody's going into something like Sugar, we would have the ability to connect using our connector development kit.
Great, and I think another question for, actually this question would probably be for Robert. Robert, yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about how we price our offering?
Yeah, of course. Well, we have pricing for small businesses all the way up to large enterprises, actually. So our pricing is based on capacity required, let's say, so also on annual row usage, as we call it. But if some of the attendees have specific questions on pricing, please connect to me after this session, and I'm very happy to talk some more about pricing in specific, on a one-on-one call or something like that.
Great, thank you. Pierre, another question. I'm not sure that I know how to ask this one, but I will go ahead and ask it. Can NM relations be migrated to with flat files? I'm not sure what an M, it's N as in Nancy, semicolon M as in Mary.
Right, one-to-many or many-to-many relationships be migrated. So those are part of the design. So we talked about parent-child relationships. So those are a one-to-many relationship. And so a many-to-one relationship is effectively just in the way that one would design the migration. So yes, the answer is yes. So a good example of that would be somebody selling a product. And so a product can be on many different sales orders. And so you have to initially build those products, and then you build the relationships separately as a separate, usually map. So yep, it's just all in the methodology. So the answer is yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Someone did ask the question about if this session is recorded. We will be sending out a recorded version of the session for you guys. And I think we have time for one more question, and the last one that we have here for Pierre again, how long do you think the typical migration project is? Like how many hours?
Yeah, so that's always kind of a bit of a loaded question, because it's really from the perspective of how much data that you have and what the strategy is going to be. So in the example that we had at the very beginning of the presentation, one of those persons, the person that kind of endorsed Scribe there in the App Store. He's like, well, it was great because it only took 6 weeks, and so for them it was awesome, that took 6 weeks. For other companies, that's just too long. Other organizations set it up so their cutover is 1 day, right? So they kind of stage the new system up, and then test all the migrations, and then they say on Friday afternoon we're gonna do the migration over the weekend or something on this order, so people end old system one day, and then tomorrow when they come in, all the data is migrated. So it's kind of everywhere in between there is the answer. So but
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, again, I think we'd definitely like to thank you guys for joining our presentation today. If you're interested in learning more about how Scribe can help your integration needs, your migration needs, please visit our website, scribesoft.com/Salesforce. I certainly urge you to sign up for a free trial. We offer a free 15-day trial of Scribe Online, which you saw today. And we do offer free trial assistance with a customer success engineer, so we'll help you get set up. We'll help you get your connections made. And again, if you have any questions, certainly do not hesitate to reach out to us by email. You can tweet at us, get in contact with us in any one of those fashions, and we will be happy to answer your questions. And the final piece is when you close out of the webinar, go ahead and please take our survey. We'd love to know if you'd be interested in more of a deeper dive on some of the technical aspects of migrating your data into Salesforce. So again, we thank you for joining us, and have a great day, everyone.